Hello, everyone. My name is Matt,
I'm Luke.
and we are students at The Ohio State University, and we are currently enrolled in ENR 5358, Applied Vertebrate Physiological Ecology. And today we are bringing you a podcast that is looking at the effects of climate change on caribou in the Arctic. So it's a pretty interesting topic, and I think we found a lot about it that we may not have known before. So we're just going to kind of dive right in here and tell you about the different results that are happening because of climate change. So the first one that I found is a study by Mallory and Boyce, 2018, that talks about how climate change can lead to increases in predation, competition between other species, parasitism such as ticks and worms, diseases and insect harassment like mosquitoes and flies that these caribou could potentially be subject to. And many of the species, such as flies and mosquitoes and parasites, are normally restricted to more southerly ranges than what the caribou normally live in, especially during the winter. But with the increasing temperatures that climate change is bringing on, they're finding that these species can potentially move northward and also be present for more parts of the year. And the problem that we're seeing with this is that it can cause increases in the stress that these animals are undergoing and also increase their energy expenditure and weaken their immune responses to these diseases and parasites. So in this way, stress can affect their metabolism and many other life processes and just negatively impact them in a lot of ways.
Going off of that, I kind of found that interesting. I didn't think about this before, but the mosquitoes and how they move northward and how the caribou can't really escape them as the climate changes, that brought me back to thinking about the birds in Hawaii and the mosquitoes. They face almost the same situation. Was the birds, they used to be able to go up a certain altitude, and the mosquitoes wouldn't follow them because it was too cold. But with the warming weather, the mosquitoes are allowed to go farther up and feed on the birds, and that is affecting their population and might be something we'll see in the caribou in the coming years. I just thought that was interesting.
Yeah, and I think with another part of along with increasing temperatures, climate change is also making things drier and making drier conditions along with these increased temperatures, and I think you wanted to talk about that.
Yeah, going off the increased temperatures and everything drying out, the wildfires in the Arctic range, at least for the caribou, they're relatively rare and they don't happen too much. This is a problem for the caribou, though, because their primary food source, in a study done by Jant et al. 2018, consisted of 63 to 83% of lichens. Now, that's all good and all, but lichens, they're very dry and very flammable because of the low humidity. So this makes them a prime suspect or fuel for wildfires. The recovery time for lichens, a lot of people think that fires are good for the environment. In some cases they are, but for lichens, who don't usually experience fires, it's not so good because they're a very slow-growing plant. In the caribou, they'll strongly select against the patches of lichen less than 35 years of age. And if something has to take 35 years to grow, then the caribou likely won't use it. And since the lichen takes so long to grow, the vascular plants that grow much faster in the warmer soils and climate are moving in and taking over the old environment where the lichens can be found.
That's that's interesting because just going off of that, I just thought about this, thinking about the changes in plant communities. Um, we are seeing changes even down here in below the Arctic Circle of plants, and we're seeing a lot of changes in uh, tree dispersal and the different types of trees that are found in different areas. And people don't usually think of that happening up in the barren Arctic, where there's not big trees to see. There's just, scrub brush. But this just shows that, you know, it's not just trees that are being affected by climate change. It's these lichens and other important food sources as well. So that's pretty interesting. But
yeah, along with the fire, what we're experiencing right now in like the United States, we just had one of the most destructive, deadliest fires in our history just last fall, and this might be something that we'll see in the Arctic, in the Caribou's range, just in the future as well, because they're farther north, so they might not have the effects immediately that we're experiencing right now.
Yeah, for sure. That could be a potential problem in the future if we keep seeing these increases in temperature and drier climates. But another thing that we're seeing right now due to these increasing temperatures is, the rivers and lakes that are up in the Arctic Circle are known to freeze over in the winters, and there's substantial amount of ice. I mean, thick enough for these caribou to travel on. And with these increasing temperatures, this ice is freezing less and freezing for shorter periods of time, and it is becoming less thick. And a study done by LeBlanc et al. 2016 shows that this can disrupt these caribou migrations. So not only does this inhibit them from crossing rivers and lakes to get to their different summering and wintering grounds, but it's going to make them change the timing in which they migrate, which we see that in a lot of bird species as climate change has come about. But now it's being seen in caribou as well and other migratory ungulates. But not only will it alter the timing of these migrations, but it's going to have to increase their energy expenditure, because they have to cross this ice quicker if they're going to cross it, because the ice isn't going to hold as long, be frozen as long. And if they can't cross this ice, if it's not frozen, or if it's just thin ice that it's not safe to go across, they're going to have to take longer routes to go around these bodies of water, or maybe go to a different area to find a safe place to cross. So that's just going to increase the amount of energy that they're going to spend while they're migrating. So that's going to have negative effects on other parts of their lives, the time they spend foraging and breeding and everything like that. So we can see problems arising there as well.
Yeah, going off of the extreme weather portion of it, with the freezing of the lakes and streams and whatnot, we all know that with climate change comes the more frequent extreme weather events, and these events directly affect the caribou. And just a couple of years ago, I think it was in Norway, there's a lightning strike that killed 323 reindeer, because when they all get scared, they get close together to comfort one another, and this lightning strike happened to strike one of them or near them and killed all of them. But with climate change, this might be something that's more common in the years to come.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of unpredictable weather. I mean, even if you just look at what happened along the Mississippi River just a couple weeks ago with all the flooding, I mean, all these things are unpredictable, and it's affecting not only people but wildlife as well, and it's affecting all areas of the globe. So it's just one thing we're going to have to watch out for. But as far as habitat goes, I think you had a statistic there for projected losses.
Yeah, by Masood et al. 2017, they did almost like a simulation. If we stay at the rate that we're at now with the gases and whatnot that were greenhouse gases. By 2050, they predicted that 55% of the woodland caribou habitat would be lost. And that's on the low end. They went all the way from 55 to 98%. And 98% for the woodland caribou, that could wipe them out.
That'd be very detrimental. I mean, we've already seen extinctions happening, and I think the caribou, as a very beautiful species, would be very sad to be lost. But fortunately, not all the science is pointing towards death and destruction and bad news. So we have one study from Mallory et al. 2018 that talks about the body condition scores that these caribous are seeing and how it's related to climate change. And body condition just means that when you have a higher body condition, you're healthier, you've got more body fat reserves, you know, you're eating well, and you're not stressed, and you're just doing pretty good for yourself. So they found that warmer temperatures increases plant growth in the Arctic, and this increased plant growth is great for caribou as they're herbivores and they eat plants. And so when there's increased plant growth, they eat more and it increases their body conditions. And then this also helps for reproduction and fecundity because body conditions of pregnant caribou directly impact their calf's chance for survival, because when they have a better body condition, they're better able to provide for their calf, and they provide it plenty of nutrients and are able to nurse it really well. So there are some positives to climate change in this case specifically. I think the negatives probably outweigh the positives, but I don't think it's universally bad. So
yeah, going off of that too. Yeah, you'll get the increased plant growth, but you also got the increased chance for wildfire, and that'll wipe it out. So it's almost like a double-edged sword. You got the increased plant growth, but you also got the increased risk of wildfire.
Yeah, that's very true. So we can't ignore this problem. It's happening. It's negatively impacting these animals and other animals around the globe. But either way, we as humans need to find ways to mitigate these effects and lower our impact on the world. So, well, we thank you all for listening. I hope you enjoyed the talk a little bit. I know we did.
Yeah, I hope you got to learn a little bit more.
So, and we will talk to you next time.